I'm standing here at the entrance of the Fenton Art Glass Company Museum, which is in a great complex which includes the factory, the offices, and the gift shop of the Fenton Art Glass Company of Williamstown, West Virginia. Hi, I'm William Heacock, author of 3 books on Fenton glass as well as several others on Victorian glass of the early American period. For the next half hour or so, I'll be guiding you through 75 to 80 years of Fenton glass production, and you will see firsthand the beauty, the color, the style, and the shape which the Fenton Company produced over the last 80 years. I'm joining you now from what I call the vaults here at the Fenton Art Glass Company. It's actually a large storeroom where one-of-a-kind samples, many rarities from the past, and other distinguished pieces of Fenton rest quietly, gathering dust. I'm privileged to be here, to be perfectly honest, because there are many items here which I want to show you, which have never been shown before in any publication. Resting before me on this table are just a gathering of samples which I gathered together in just a short while to represent the 75 years of Fenton glass production here in Williamstown. As you can see, a vast variety of colors, styles, and shapes available to the discriminating collector. It's quite obvious that the company was able to make beautiful opaque, art glass, opalescent, iridescent, and cased glass colors. In fact, all of these colors, which I just mentioned, are the trademark of the Fenton glass name. But there was much more versatility during this period where they experimented with colors and came up with very unusual treatments and unique shapes and unique colors, which I hope to discuss with you today. One of the earliest types of glass made by Fenton here at Williamstown was opalescent glass, and this company has made quite a reputation for itself in the production of opalescent over the years. But 1939 was a red-letter year for the Fenton Art Glass Company, because it was that year that the hobnail design became a staple in the Fenton line. Hobnail has been produced by this firm in one form or another since that year to this very day. In fact, in one year they made over 180 different shapes in a single year. Hobnail comes in all colors, from cranberry to green to blue, cased colors like peach blow, blue marble, decorated colors of all descriptions and sizes. Hobnail is a subject which would take a tape all its own, and I'm afraid that it would be too much to discuss in detail at this time. But you must realize that it was hobnail that kept Fenton alive for many, many years, being one of their most popular and saleable items. Honeysuckle opalescent was introduced in the 1950s by Fenton, and it was kept in production for only a very short time. Honeysuckle is extremely popular today because of this limited production, and very few shapes can be found in this amber opalescent color. Another rare color in the coin dot design is the lime opalescent. This is actually cased glass with a layer of white opalescent or French opalescent on the outside and solid green on the inside. The lime opalescent also dates from the mid-50s and is quite scarce. This cruet with the ebony stopper dates from the early 1950s as well and is quite desirable to most collectors. It was part of a modern line of glass brought out by Fenton during the 1950s. The lime opalescent was only made for a couple of years, and thus every piece that you find in this color is desired by many collectors. But also shown is a cruet on the turntable in a pattern known as cactus. This yellow opalescent cruet was part of a line brought out by Fenton around 1959 and discontinued in 1961. However, you'll find pieces of cactus in the Fenton line brought out every once in a while for limited edition production. For instance, recently, around 1981, the pattern was produced in red carnival and an aqua opalescent carnival. But the topaz opalescent, as it is shown here, was produced only from 1959 to 1961. All new pieces of the cactus pattern are marked with the Fenton logo, the trademark on the bottom. There's a type of glass known to collectors today as stretch glass, which was popular in the 1920s and early 1930s. This glass gets its name from the stretched or crackled-like effect found on the rim of each piece. Shown here is a trumpet vase in a beautiful red color. Red is the most desirable color in carnival glass and in stretch glass. Possibly one of the reasons is its scarcity. This scarcity is because of the difficulty in making the color. Originally it was amber, and then it had to be refired to create the red-like color. Here's an example of what was known as ivory crest. It's actually a custard glass made with uranium. It will glow under a black light with an applied crystal edge. Ivory crest was only popular during the war years in the mid-40s. It was discontinued after that. But another popular color, and so popular in fact it's being made even today, is the silver crest, which is the milk glass with the spun crystal edge. This is a rare divided basket. This table right here is one of my favorites. I can almost see your mouth watering. We have examples of Fenton's Art Glass, their cased glass, their aventurine, their Burmese, their decorated glass. This is what I call the art glass of the Fenton years, from about 1925 to about 1980. Particularly of interest is the Karnak red hanging vine vase on the turntable. This vase was made about 1925, and it was extremely rare. Very little was made, and it was made by a group of Czechoslovakian glassworkers who Fenton hired in 1925 to produce this line. It was a very short-lived production period and was discontinued shortly afterwards because it was very expensive to make and very difficult to sell. But today the collectors just eat it up. In 1964 only, a color which was called plated amberina is shown here on the turntable. The plated amberina color involves an outer layer of an amber red color and an inner layer of white. This item didn't sell very well and thus was discontinued after 1964. In the late 1960s, a decorating staff was added to the Fenton Art Glass Company, which produced a series of designs on milk glass and on custard glass and on blue satin glass in various designs involving scenes, birds, and flowers. These are highly collectible today as they've been discontinued, and shown here is an example of the old mill scene. Another popular scene is the log cabin, both found on custard glass. But when gold is added to the batch of custard glass and the item is blown into a mold and refired, a color which is very well known to collectors of Fenton glass, Burmese, is created. Shown on the turntable is a mandarin vase made in 1977 and 1978 in a color known as Burmese. The original formula goes back to about 1885 when it was made by the New England Glass Company. But Fenton revived this formula in 1970 and continued it until 1975. Only recently they were able to take this formula and produce it in pressed glass. Also shown is one of the earliest examples of Fenton Burmese with transfer-style decoration of oak leaves, very similar to that found on the early examples of Webb Burmese made in England. This fairy light dates from around 1971. But one of the most popular Burmese decorations is the hand-painted roses. This is known to collectors as Rose Burmese. It also was made from 1971 to 1975. Another popular opaque color made from the late 1920s all the way through the 1930s was known as jade green. Jade green was made by a variety of factories, but Fenton was quite successful in its production. Sometimes the jade green is found in combinations with black. This particular rose bowl is made from a mold which was generally found in a vase form or in a bowl form, but here it was crimped into a tight rose bowl. Jade green was a popular color throughout the 1930s and was made by Fenton, New Martinsville Glass Company, the McKee Glass Company, and Northwood as well. This is the Fenton Wise Owl. Originally, there was a little paper band around the edge here which gave you a yes, a no, a maybe, and it answered the questions of the day, the little problems that faced us all. This is an original design of the Fenton craftsman, and it was produced in black glass, or ebony as it was called. Black glass has been produced by Fenton in one form or another since 1916. It was popular during the 1930s when black glass was reaching its peak of popularity among the collectors of tableware, but it was also reintroduced by Fenton in the 1950s and early 1960s. This little item dates from around 1970 to 1971 and is highly collectible as a novelty item. Within the confines of this great vault are many one-of-a-kind samples which never made the Fenton line, items which, as Frank Fenton says, never saw the light of day. They're carefully preserved here in this room, and the wonder and the beauty as you walk through the room is a simply overwhelming, awe-inspiring experience. I get this same feeling of awe every time I speak to Frank or Bill Fenton, the sons of the original founder of this company. One can't help but wonder, what if other factories, other great names in glass, like Northwood or Millersburg, or the factories at Greentown, Indiana, or Findlay, Ohio, had survived? I guess that's something like wondering what great works of art or music would exist today had a great painter or composer lived just a little bit longer. The Fenton glass, which you've seen in this video earlier, is still available today on the collector's market. You can find it at antique shops, antique shows. You can find it at flea markets, depression glass shows, auctions. You can even find some Fenton glass in garage sales and secondhand stores. But the traditions of great glassmaking continue here at Fenton even today for thousands of future generations of collectors. If you'd like to learn more, or if you'd like to come to Williamstown and see the glass being made today, or if you'd like to learn through a national organization of Fenton glass collectors, all of this information is available at the end of this tape.